me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. Well, it may be a crazy world, but it's Friday if you're watching this live. Friday. Friday's always a good day, isn't it? Especially if you're working. People look forward to it, and even if you're not, something special, isn't there, about the weekend? Now, in today's video, we are going to talk about the last day of the third week of the murder mushroom trial. So today, or last night in Australia, which was today for them, was the last day of the week. So that's 3 weeks that have gone past in this trial so far. And they had a shorter day, probably Colin Mandy probably wanted to get off and do whatever he does at the weekend. He doesn't really like doing extra hours. I shouldn't say that about him. He's just made, I do feel like he does like very short days. But often with trials on a Friday, they finish early, don't they, I suppose. Everyone deserves their weekend, don't they? Even judges. So we're going to go through what happened today, which is shorter than normal. We're going to look at why the juror was dismissed yesterday. So don't forget, yesterday, a juror was mysteriously dismissed, which hasn't affected the proceedings, because I think 15 jurors were chosen. And if by the end of... So 15 jurors were chosen, then they take lots, don't they, to which 12 will actually... Oh, no, there's 15 jurors chosen, and they all listen to all the evidence and follow the trial. Then when it comes to the end of the trial and it's time for jury deliberation, then I think they draw lots for the 12. So there's only going to be 14 left, presuming nobody else gets dismissed. So what they'll do is those 14 jurors that are left at the end of the trial, as when the judge sends them out for deliberations, they will draw lots and see which 12 people get selected to actually find the verdict. I think that's the way it works. Maybe somebody knows a bit different. Let me know in comments if you do, but I think that's how it works. 15 jurors listening to all the proceedings. Then if there are more than 12 left at the end of the proceedings to go to jury deliberations, they have to draw lots to decide which 12 go through. So there's only 14 now. One's gone, and we're going to look at why that person went. And then listen to whatever was said today. So this is the end of the third week. Don't forget, this trial is programmed for 4 to 6 weeks. There's definitely another week in there, definitely. But at some point, the judge did say he felt that it would be shorter than initially thought. So maybe it won't go to the whole 6 weeks. But it's a long trial. And we can see why. There's been a lot of evidence submitted, hasn't there, from experts, toxicologists, mushroom experts, then all the hospital staff, and then of course the surviving person, Ian, his testimony, and then Erin Patterson's ex-husband, her estranged husband, his testimony, the children's testimony. So there's been a lot to unpack in this trial so far, and there's still probably quite a bit to go. And I'm still wondering, will Erin take the stand? Let me know what you think. Do you think she will take the stand to testify? Generally, people are advised not to, aren't they? But maybe in this case, they are going to ask her to take the stand. So before I get into that, and I've been doing a little bit of foraging for mushrooms, not literally but I've been having a look to see. For those of you who don't know, I'm based in Spain, and I've been having a look to see where wild mushrooms do grow in Spain. Not many places, but so I'm going to let you have a look at that. So if anyone's ever poisoned by mushrooms in my family, or in my sort of internal, in my I can't think of the English word, in my sort of sphere, the police will be right on my computer looking for poisonous mushrooms grow in Spain. Anyway, not in many places, let me tell you that. So that's good. That's reassuring. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to say thank you to everyone. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. As it says in the banner below, thank you for all that. Special thanks to my members. We had an interesting members live last night, didn't we? Yeah, members lives every Thursdays, exclusive members lives. And of course, you get to use the members emojis. There's quite a few perks apart from the fact you just get to support my channel, which if you enjoy watching my channel, the members are the mainstay of my channel. Thank you so much to my members, and thank you. If you don't want a commitment like that, you can always buy Ko-fi, and that's just from $3. You can buy me a Ko-fi, or you can send a super sticker from, I think it's 99 cents. These are all extra ways you can help my channel. But of course, the most important way of helping my channel keep it going is by watching, by liking, subscribing, sharing maybe. So thank you. Also thank you to people who send me emails, write me songs, or send me pictures of Vicky Marie dolls, all these things. I'm so blessed. I love those things because they just, well, they're fun, aren't they? And it just feels nice. Anyway, and thank you to everyone who leaves nice comments, etc. Okay, so I'm going to take the banner off, and I am now, oh, I didn't take the banner off. Oh. So, as always, hello to you lurkers watching at home. Thank you for watching. Hi to replay crew. And now I'm going to come in and say hello to those of you brave enough to venture into the chat. Now, I don't know what it's like where you are, but yesterday here in Spain, where it doesn't, it's not supposed to rain, it's supposed sunny Spain, people. Oh, not been sunny this year. Anyway, yesterday it rained all afternoon. It was freezing last night. I mean, it really was cold. I had to get my jumpers back out again. As you can see, today it's back to sunny service. I've been out to the supermarket this morning. That was great fun, but then I did take my dogs and we went for a walk on the beach or near the beach. And that was lovely. The sun was shining. And then I got too hot because I've got my jeans on. And because it has been chilly. And then it got too hot. I thought, oh my God, you can't get the right clothes at the moment. But anyway, it was beautiful. The dogs enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. They're a little bit crashed out now. Hopefully that means they'll be quiet. So yeah, sunny service resumed in Spain. Hope it's nice where you are. So hi, David. Hi, Pam. Hi, Angel. Hi, Bluebell. Hi, Sean. Yeah, maybe she will, maybe she won't. Who knows? Who knows? I wonder I don't think she should. I don't think it's a good idea, really. The problem that Erin's got, as the evidence has mounted up against her, hasn't it, really? And as that is happening, alongside that, I think it all went wrong for Erin when it transpired that she had invited these 4 people round for lunch to discuss the fact she'd been diagnosed with cancer, and then it turned out she didn't have cancer. I think that it's just a massive thing, because I think the jury, although obviously they'll be listening to the expert testimony and stuff like that, they won't be able to it's hard to get it out of your head that somebody lied about having cancer, because nearly everyone in this world knows somebody, has a family member, a friend, or if not themselves, who has had cancer and knows the devastation that cancer causes. So people are going to be very, very, look very skew-iff at somebody who lied about having cancer, aren't they? So I think that was probably a good idea that they did put Ian Wilkinson on first, because I think straight away then, the jury will have been looking at Erin sideways. I mean, you can't help it. If you found out someone had lied to you about having cancer, in any, never mind someone who's on trial for murder, you would never really trust them again, would you? You know, it's like, it's a big lie, you know, and it's an offence to everybody, because as I say, that I bet there's nobody who in one way or another hasn't been touched by cancer, whether it's themselves that have had it or their relatives or their friends, lost people to cancer. So it's a big lie, and I think that will have definitely coloured the jurors' eyes. But of course, they're supposed to listen to the rest of the evidence. But the thing is, I don't think the defence has presented any evidence yet that would make you doubt that Erin was guilty, has she? Have they? I mean, although at first 2 weeks, you're thinking, oh, there's not really a definite thing that says that Erin did it. This week, I think there has been, because this week we've had the toxicology reports from the leftovers and the dehydrator, seen her take it. Well, they'll have seen her taking the dehydrator to the dump, etc. So, you know, the evidence is mounting up every week that passes. The evidence against Erin is stronger, but there doesn't seem to be any defence. So whether they think that, you know, putting her on the stand will help her defence, but I don't see how it can. But anyway, hi, Maria. Okay, so let's have a look. So we're going to go to the mushroom trial. Oh, no, not that one. Set off a video. Okay, where are we going? Yeah, so we're going again to this news blog, which has been very useful, from Australia News, or is it ABC News Australia? Anyway, it doesn't really matter. But it's been an interesting blog. So starts off by saying more witnesses will give evidence today as Erin Patterson's triple murder trial continues from Morwell. And as usual, Christian Silver, that's their reporter, will provide updates from the courtroom. Now, yeah, because thing is, this trial is not being televised, but 8 media representatives are allowed in every day, and they're allowed to report on everything. There's nothing that they're not allowed to report on. So we're reliant on the accuracy of the media for our news. We're reliant on the accuracy of the media that are in there. And this, we've been following a couple of blogs. The Guardian blog has been quite good, and this one has been good. So yeah. Oh, and just a reminder, just in case there's anyone on this planet who might be watching who doesn't know what the hell we're talking about, this is the tale, if you like, of very sad tale, whatever the result is. This lady, Erin Patterson, is accused of serving up a poisonous beef Wellington that was laced with deathcap mushrooms. These are the deathcap mushrooms. She's accused of serving these individual beef Wellingtons to these 4 unfortunate people, 3 of which, Don, Gail and Heather, all died. And the only person who survived was Heather's husband, Ian. And all these 4 people are relatives of Erin's estranged husband, Simon. And he was also invited to the lunch, but he decided in the end not to go. And apparently, allegedly, Erin got a little bit narky when he decided not to go, but she went ahead with the lunch, and just these 4 people went. And Heather and Ian. Heather is the sister of Gail. They had never been invited to Erin's house before. They were delighted to be invited. And they all said the food that was served to them was delicious. But then 24 hours later, or 12 hours later, more or less, they all started exhibiting signs of, vomiting, nausea, really poorly. They were really poorly and they had to be taken to hospital. And 3 unfortunately died over a course of a few days. Ian survived. Whereas Erin, who was at the lunch, she just had a little bit of diarrhea, apparently. She just felt a little bit queasy, a little bit nauseous. When she was told at the hospital she may well have ingested deathcap mushrooms like the others, she discharged herself and went home and said she had things to sort out. And we found out yesterday that when she had no trace of deathcap mushrooms in her system at all. Whereas these 4 people, hang on, Don had residue of deathcap mushrooms. Ian had residue of deathcap mushrooms in their urine, because don't forget, a few days had passed before they specifically tested for deathcap mushrooms. They had traces in their urine. One of the ladies was never tested. The other lady was found negative. But deathcap mushrooms were found in traces of deathcap mushrooms were found in tests that were made on the leftovers, and also were found in the dehydrator that Erin had used to dry out the mushrooms that she said she'd bought from an Asian supermarket. And then she dumped this dehydrator at the local dump, but she didn't realise she was caught on CCTV doing so. So this is basic. I mean, there's quite a lot, as they were at the end of the 3rd week. So there's a lot of information. We know a lot more about mushrooms now, don't we, than we knew before. We've all been put off mushrooms and beef Wellington. But yeah, so the case at the end of the day, as I keep saying, what this case comes down to in my eyes is not whether these poor unfortunate souls were poisoned by deathcap mushrooms. I think that's pretty evident that they were. But the question is, did Erin do it on purpose? Or did she buy those mushrooms in an Asian supermarket like she claims, even though she can't remember where the supermarket was? She can't even remember the area where the supermarket was. It's also been established that deathcap mushrooms don't grow in China or Asia, where she said she got these dried mushrooms from. Nobody else was poisoned by deathcap mushrooms, so it wasn't a batch of deathcap mushrooms in this Asian supermarket. Nobody else has fallen ill. She threw away the packet. She can't remember which supermarket she bought it from. She can't even remember the area that she can't even say, oh, it was in this area, but I don't remember which one it was. And also something else that came up was that she has no card transaction for buying these mushrooms. So she said, oh, she must have paid in cash because it was a small amount. Well, how does she even know it was a small amount if she doesn't remember buying them? In my experience, these dried mushrooms in Chinese supermarkets and things, they're expensive, really expensive. Except in China, my ex-husband, many years ago, his parents used to send him over these dried mushrooms from Hong Kong because it was cheaper to do that than buy them in Chinatown in Manchester. They're expensive. They're not cheap. Anyway, that's what Erin says. She says she bought them in the Asian supermarket, and she says she opened them. She was going to put them in, what was it she said she was going to put them in? A carbonara. But when she opened the packet, she said they were really strong smelling, so she thought it was too much smell. So she never used them in the carbonara. So she thought that they would make a good thing to use for the beef Wellington. Mix them with normal mushrooms that she'd bought in Safeway, because she thought that smell or that richness of the mushrooms would be good for the beef Wellington. And when she was asked, well, did you pick those mushrooms yourself? Twice by somebody at the hospital, she just ignored the question. She didn't say yes, she didn't say no. She pretended she was looking at her phone. She just ignored when she was asked that. So basically, this is where we are. So yesterday, as I say, a juror was discharged. So let's have a look at what this news item says is the reason.
It's been another really big week in the Erin Patterson mushroom murder trial, with a juror kicked off the case yesterday. For more, we're joined by a court reporter and the host of the Mushroom Case Daily podcast, Christian Silver. G'day, Christian. Tell us what happened with this juror.
Good morning, James. Yeah, there were some pretty dramatic scenes in the courtroom yesterday when the jury was informed that one of their own had been kicked off the case. The court said that it had received possibly credible information that this juror had been discussing the case with friends and family. Now, this is a big no-no, that you're definitely not meant to do this. Discussions about the case are only meant to be limited to the jury room and the jurors on the case. So if true, this would be a clear breach of the instructions that Justice Christopher Beale gave the panel at the very start of the trial. And he warned them. He said that in the past, some jurors have actually been sent to prison for discussing cases or conducting their own research. So now the jury is
sent to prison for doing that. I mean, really, they do expect, at the end of the day, people are human, aren't they? I bet there's loads of jurors that have gone home and then done a quick Google. You can't rely on people not to do it, really, can you? Personally, I think that especially in big cases like this, I mean, obviously not in every case, but in big cases like this, it might be better that they are kept separate. This is important. This is not just a shoplifting case. This is a murder case. 3 people murdered and 1 attempted murder. Surely there's a way of keeping the jury, separate. Putting the jury up somewhere. Maybe people won't want to do it if that happens, but it just seems more logical to me in murder cases. Do you know what I mean? In serious cases.
Is down to 14. Ultimately, it will only be a group of 12 who make the call on whether Erin Patterson is guilty or acquitted, but that will come later at the end of the evidence.
All right, and just tell us about the evidence. There was a lot of medical and scientific evidence put forward this week, wasn't there?
There was, James, and just a reminder, this case centres around a lunch that was held at Erin Patterson's house in July 2023, where she's invited 4 guests over to her place. A beef Wellington with mushrooms was served, and following the lunch, police alleged that the 4 lunch guests fell really, really sick. 3 of them ended up dying. So this week, attention turned to the medical evidence behind these prosecution claims. We heard yesterday from a toxicologist, Dimitri Demoulos, who explained some toxicology reports. And he said what he was looking for were toxins, effectively traces of deathcap mushrooms. Now, he said he found traces of deathcap mushrooms in beef Wellington leftovers that were recovered from Erin Patterson's bin. And he also recovered traces from a food dehydrator, which Erin Patterson dumped at the local tip in the days after the lunch. The professor also said that he conducted analysis of human samples taken from the lunch guests. He found toxins present in Don Patterson and also in Ian Wilkinson, the sole survivor of the lunch. He said tests relating to Erin Patterson, however, did not return any positive results of traces of deathcap mushrooms.
And Christian, we also heard that the jury was given a bit of a crash course in mushrooms. Tell us about this.
Oh my God.
Well, James.
Yeah, do you remember that? I mean, that Sophie, the defence barrister, as she was waiting for Colin Mandy to get out of bed and actually turn up at court. Do you remember her asking that poor guy, Funky John, about mushrooms, like giving him a quiz on, as if she was trying to prove if he was a real mushroom expert or not. What is this mushroom? What is going on for hours and hours and hours? I mean, it's like, what was I watching today? I was watching something about another court case. Because there's a few sort of big court cases going on at the moment, aren't they? Oh, and by the way, I've put a community post to see if you want me to cover the Diddy. I haven't been covering the Diddy case. But anyway, I've been looking into it a bit, and oh my God, that's another crazy case. And then, of course, the Idaho 4 case is coming up. And I was reading something where a judge was saying, or somebody was saying that a judge had said, judges that sometimes defense lawyers, and this is what I felt like Erin's lawyer was doing, just because he had nothing else to say, because she hasn't got a defense, is they just start repeating everything. Repetition. And this particular judge, I think it's in the Idaho 4 case, said he doesn't want that happening. He's not a judge that will put up with that. He's not having all this repetition. He just wants succinct facts. Can't remember if it was Idaho 4 or Diddy case. It was one of them. He just wants the facts. He doesn't want things being repeated over and over again. And yeah, you just felt with that Sophie Stafford, she was just trying to make the jury lose the will to live, so they weren't listening properly anymore. It was just ridiculous. What was she? It's like she was trying to discredit the mushroom expert. I mean, he is a mushroom expert. At the end of the day, you could say he knows a lot about mushrooms. And that's all there is to it. Why was she giving him like a mastermind quiz on mushrooms? Oh. Sorry, phone's ringing. Hello? Oh. Trying to sell me something. So, yeah, let's carry on. Sorry.
A big issue in this case is the source of the mushrooms that were included in the beef Wellington dish. Erin Patterson says that the mushrooms came from a combination of a local supermarket and also from an Asian grocer somewhere in Melbourne's southeastern suburbs. But she was questioned during the investigation after the lunch about whether the mushrooms could have actually been picked from the wild, and she denied that initially during the questioning by investigators. So Dr. Tom May, a mycologist, a mushroom expert, was called to the stand this week, where he took the jury through a fungal masterclass, taking them on a tour of Victoria and the world to discuss the world of mushrooms. He was asked about Amanita phalloides, which is deathcap mushrooms, and he said that, look, in the wild, it can be really difficult at times to distinguish Amanita phalloides from other species that grow. And he listed many species, which I definitely can't name because the scientific names are way too complicated, James. But ultimately, he reached the conclusion that it is difficult to tell them apart from others, especially if you don't really know what you're doing. James, this trial is continuing. More evidence today and still more to come next week.
Of course. All right, Christian, thanks for your time this morning.
So there you go. That's more or less where we were up to, up to yesterday. So now let's have a look at where we're going and what happened today. And as I say, it's a lot shorter than normal. There wasn't lots of evidence given today. Was it that one? Oh, where's it gone? Oh, gosh. Yeah, must have put the window down. I'll find it again. Whenever I get anything set up, it always disappears. Sorry. Ah, there it is. Okay, let's see where we're going. We need to go down to the bottom again. Oh, I realised what I did wrong there. Okay, so it started off with the return. Started off with the return of Dimitri Gerostamalous. He returned for a single question, and the prosecution asked a single question of forensic expert Dimitri Gerostamalous, whose testimony was briefly postponed. He is asked if two people with no previous health issues consume deathcap mushrooms and one of them dies and one survives, would he expect there to be some adverse health effects on the person who survived? And Dimitri replied there was likely to be some adverse reactions to the person who survived. And he conceded there have been cases where two people ate the same meal, contaminated with deathcap mushrooms, and one died and the other survived. And he is then discharged. Then cross-examination of Dr. Lovelock begins. So the prosecution finishes its... am I going the wrong way now or what? Hang on. No. Now to go 8. Yeah, sorry, I should have started down at the bottom here. I think. So, show more posts. Yeah. Right, okay, sorry. So the jury continues to hear testimony from Dimitri Gerostamalous, who is adjunct associate professor at Monash University's Department of Forensic Medicine. He's there early today, Mr. Mandy. It must have been because he's finishing early. He's asking Dr. Gerostamalous about the testing of 2 bags which contain leftovers from the lunch at Erin Patterson's house. And Mr. Mandy puts it to the forensic expert that the items were from 2 places at Erin Patterson's home, but they were put in 1 bag, to which he agrees and says it was not an ideal way to receive samples. Now, that's interesting, isn't it? Because they were from 2 places at Erin's home and put in 1 bag. So imagine if there was deathcap mushrooms on one of those samples, but not on the other, but then they were put in 1 bag, the contamination could go to all the samples, couldn't it? So Mr. Mandy asks about the process for testing, and Dr. Gerostamalous says small parts of the larger sample are tested. It is not possible to test the whole sample, he says. He's shown photos of the samples that were sent for testing, which have been divided into separate vials. There is an explanation from Dr. Gerostamalous of the testing process for the testing of the contents of the vials, of which there were 9. The process is really about concentrating these samples, he explains, which he says is standard procedure. He explains that the methanol is added to the vials to extract compounds of interest from the contents of the vial. He is then, Mr. Mandy is now showing images of toxicology results from the testing of the samples. Each sample is labelled such as beef or pastry. But Dr. Gerostamalous agrees there could be elements of other items in the contents. For example, the beef sample may contain small amounts of pastry. There is also discussion of a confidence threshold for each sample. Mr. Mandy asks whether that means there could be a smaller amount of that substance which does not reach the threshold. And he says there may be, and he explains that food analysis can be challenging. Mr. Mandy is now asking about results from samples taken from Don Patterson, which were taken about 32 hours after the meal. And Dr. Gerastamoulos explains the sooner a sample is taken, the better chance of extracting evidence of a toxin. And the judge calls for a short break. God, they have more breaks than Kit Kat, don't they, in this court case? Anyway, so yeah, 32 hours after the meal, the samples were taken from Don, but they did still find deathcap mushrooms in Don's urine. So after the short break, the trial resumes. Mr. Mandy continues with questions about the test results of the lunch guests and notes the times at which blood and other samples were taken from the guests. The guests were all tested between 25 and 32 hours after the lunch. So they were all at least a day later, if not more. So Mr. Mandy asked Dr. Gerastamoulos to confirm that the deathcap toxin can be detected in urine for longer than it can be in blood, and he agrees. He says only 2 samples were taken from Erin, which were taken 51 hours after the lunch and did not detect deathcap mushrooms. 51 hours is a long time, of course. And Dr. Gerastamoulos agrees. Questions now turn to the amount of toxin that can constitute a potentially lethal dose. There are lots of variables that need to be considered for that lethal dose, the doctor says, including the age and health of the subject. And he confirms that it is based on animal studies, not human studies. Dr. Gerastamoulos, the doctor, agrees that most of the studies on deathcap mushrooms comes from Europe because that's where most poisonings occur. Oh my God, we haven't got them in Spain, I've checked. Mr. Mandy is discussing a study which showed some people who consumed deathcap mushrooms reacted with different levels of severity, which is categorized in 4 grades. He mentions the first grade, in which a person does not develop liver or kidney issues, even though they ate the same meal as people who reacted more severely. He is then asked about whether, depending on an individual person's tolerance, the person's response may be different to that of other people who've eaten the same meal, and he agrees. He also agrees that factors such as age, health, and weight might influence their response. What, another break? So the prosecution asks for a short break and the judge agrees. I'm just making sure you're all okay in chat, and then I've got to go and get another pineapple juice. Hi, Alana, or Alana even. Hi, Swin. Just say hello to everybody who's in there. Yeah, you carry on. I'll talk about your theories because I've just got to go and get a drink because it makes me thirsty reading these up. And I forgot to bring my juice. Hey. Sorry, Alana. Yep. Pina, David. Pina. I like pineapple juice or cranberry juice. They're my favourite juices. I've been shopping this morning. So, okay. So after another short break from the court, oh my God, I should have been a judge. So then the prosecution questions Dr. Gerastamoulos. Sarah Lenthal resumes questioning of Dr. Gerastamoulos. Oh, now a delay after the defence objects to a question put forward by the prosecution. Oh no. So the questioning of Dr. Gerastamoulos has been postponed and will be resumed on Monday, and a new witness is now being called, whose testimony is expected to be completed during today's session. So this is Dr. David Lovelock. He's now taken the witness stand to be questioned by Nanette Rogers. She's the defence, isn't she? He's manager of a diagnostics plant. He's manager of diagnostics at Plant Health Victoria. He says his work involves determining what plants or fungus might be affecting the crops of farmers. He was asked to conduct analysis linked to this case. He says he was contacted by the Department of Health on August the 2nd, 2023, and asked to identify whether there were mushrooms in the samples provided. And he says he received 2 samples of beef Wellington in Ziploc bags from Monash Health for analysis. So a series of photos are flashed up on the court screens showing more beef Wellington leftovers. The first image shows 2 Ziploc bags, and the second and third are the contents of those bags. I need to put my teeth in this morning. Pieces of pastry with brown paste. There is discussion of the samples which were contained in the Ziploc bags and the labelling of the contents. These are confirmed as mushroom remnants from the beef Wellington. And the questions now turn to samples of gravy and fruit that Dr. Lovelock received on August the 8th. There were also samples from a dehydrator, which are contained in tubes. You would have thought, really, that before Erin threw away that dehydrator, she would have washed it, or threw it in a river even or something. There were still remnants of food in it. Anyway, Dr. Lovelock says he was advised to look for deathcap mushrooms in the samples in the Ziploc bags. He says the fruit was visually inspected but not tested. The gravy was tested. And he says DNA was extracted and examined for fungal pathogens. He says quality controls were used to ensure the correct outcome of testing. He says DNA was extracted from button mushrooms, deathcap mushrooms, and 2 other deadly mushrooms to be used as control substances. And Dr. Lovelock says there are tests they conduct to ensure they have extracted good quality samples. He says the only mushroom DNA found in the bags was from button mushrooms. He says the testing detected Amanita phalloides, which is deathcap mushrooms, in 2 of the 7 samples in the test tubes, which contained substances from the dehydrator. She definitely dehydrated deathcap mushrooms. Definitely. Now, whether it was deliberate or not is the question, isn't it? But I think 100% this woman put deathcap mushrooms in that dehydrator. Dr. Lovelock says there was no contamination of the samples as confirmed by control testing. He says the positive results from the test tubes had 99% similarity to deathcap mushroom DNA. So the prosecution finishes its questioning of Dr. Lovelock. It's over to the defence. Mr. Mandy is now asking about protocols to stop cross-contamination of samples. Dr. Lovelock says he does not know what the material in the Ziploc bags looked like before the samples reached him. He confirms the samples were distorted or misshapen, probably due to cooking. Mr. Mandy asks him about an interim report that suggested a second mushroom species other than button mushrooms was in the samples. And Mr. Mandy raises an email from Victoria Police that suggested to Dr. Lovelock not to worry about deathcap mushroom testing of those samples. There are no further questions and Dr. Lovelock is excused. So I think this is the last thing that happened yesterday or today, whichever way you look at it. The prosecution, this is where I started off erroneously earlier. The prosecution asked a single question of forensics expert Dimitri Gerostamalos, whose testimony was briefly postponed. He is asked if two people with no previous health issues consume deathcap mushrooms and one of them dies and one survives, would he expect there to be some adverse health effects on the person who survived? And he replied there would. But he concedes that there have been cases where two people ate the same meal, contaminated with deathcap mushrooms. One died and the other survived. And he is then discharged. So, yeah, I mean, it's likely to affect different people in different ways, isn't it? You know, as I was saying, depending on their weight, depending on what else they'd eaten at the same time, how frail they were, how old they were, surely. I mean, of course, the three people who died were, you know, let's have a look at them. So these are the three people that died. Now, it looks to me that Don and Gail are older than Heather and Ian. You know, with it, and of course, Don, Simon's father, he had eaten 1.5 portions because Gail did not finish her portion and he finished off her portion. Now, Heather looks sort of hale and healthy. To be honest, they all look healthy, don't they? None of them look, you know, apart from being elderly, maybe these two, but they're not, they don't look frail, they don't look ill. And Ian, now the survivor, he looks very hale and hearty now, so he seems to have recovered well, which is good. But yeah, who knows? It's a mystery, isn't it? Why? But I think that's got to be true. That's just common sense. Different. It's like alcohol, isn't it? You know, alcohol can affect different people in different ways, depending on, and drugs, I would imagine, depending on their you know, their physiology has to be taken into account, doesn't it? Really. Yeah. Now, another thing that sort of does occur to me as strange is because Erin had invited everybody to this lunch and she wanted her estranged husband, Simon, to go. And he decided he wasn't going, but she still went ahead with the lunch. So if she was planning on poisoning all of them, why did she still go ahead with it, even though Simon wasn't going? I'm still not sure that she meant to kill these people. Did she just mean to make the meal? But to me, the name, just the very name of those mushrooms, deathcap mushrooms, if you started investigating into them, you know, they sound lethal. You know, they've got called deathcap for a reason. And then you think, well, did she try and kill them deliberately? That to me is a big question. I don't know. I do think she tried to do it, but I just don't know whether she did it on purpose or not. Let's just have a look at this. We might have seen this before, but these little snippet videos are interesting, aren't they?
A forensic toxicologist is continuing to give evidence in the trial of accused mushroom triple murderer Erin Patterson. Miss Patterson has pleaded not guilty to killing 3 of her estranged husband's relatives who died after she served them a meal containing deathcap mushrooms. Alexandra Alvaro joins us now from the Latrobe Valley Magistrates Court. So, Alex, what have we heard this morning?
Yeah, we're currently hearing about the toxicology results from the guests who attended that beef Wellington lunch, and we're hearing from Victoria's chief toxicologist, Dr. Dimitri Gerostomoulos, and he's been cross-examined today. And yesterday he gave evidence that deathcap mushroom toxins were detected in 2 of those lunch guests, in Ian Wilkinson and Dom Patterson, but not in the other 2, the 2 women, and not in Erin Patterson. Now, the defence case is that Ms. Patterson ate the same lunch as her guests and that she became ill, but just not as unwell as those guests. But the prosecution argues that she didn't eat the same lunch and that she didn't become unwell. But today, under cross-examination, Dr. Gerostomoulos has agreed that age, weight and health might influence how someone reacts to the toxins and what their tolerance might be. And he's just in the process of being re-examined now by the prosecution.
And it's been a big week of evidence, Alex.
Oh, it has been a big week of evidence. Now, I just wondered, somebody mentioned about her emotions and everything in the chat, and I think this is important. Erin hasn't shown any emotion, except when her children were giving evidence by video link. Well, it wasn't a video link, it was a video that was taken quite a long time ago. That was the evidence from the children that was shown. I do think Erin cares about her children. I hope so, anyway. And that was the only time she really got emotional. And apparently she smiled when she was looking at the video of her son playing with his granddad, Don. So, I'm thinking, oh, yeah, she cares about her children. But let's not forget she's taken their grandparents away from them. That's, if she's guilty, allegedly, that's a horrible thing to do, isn't it? But, it happens all the time, doesn't it? People take their children's mothers away from them, or fathers, even though they love their children, they'll say, oh, if it's a custody case, so I couldn't bear to live without my children. But they don't mind hurting their children by taking away their other parent. And then, of course, what ends up is both parents get taken away because one's murdered, and the other one, when the person gets charged for murdering them, they lose that parent as well, and also find out what these horrible things that they've done. So there's different kinds of love, isn't there? To me, if you love someone, you want the very best for them, even if, it puts you out, really. If you love your children, you do things for them, not because it suits you to do them. You do things for your children because they're your children and you feel responsible to them. And you wouldn't want to hurt them in any way, would you? You certainly wouldn't want to take their father away from them or their grandparents away from them. So I don't understand this sort of love. It is a narcissistic love, isn't it? It's like, I know what's best. I'm doing it, whatever Erin's reasons were, if she is guilty. And sometimes people don't need a reason. Sometimes people are just mentally ill and that's why they do it. Or like just for spite or a grievance. They don't need a particular reason. I still keep going back to this thing. Everything seemed to go wrong when Simon declared himself as separated on his tax forms. And I think for Erin, even though she didn't really want to be with Simon, but she just wanted him there. She wanted to be in control. It's a control thing, I think. And she was so angry when he did that. And she didn't need, she's suing him for child support apparently after that. But she didn't need his child support, and I'm not saying that means he shouldn't give it. Don't matter if they need it or not, of course. You're still, as a parent, responsible for child support, whether your partner is a millionaire or not. But I don't think she did it because she needed the money. I think she did it just for control. It was, how dare you say you're separated without asking me first? That might affect my whatever. I don't know. She didn't like that at all. She didn't like him. She called him a control freak. But I don't think he is the control freak. I think she's the control freak. She likes, and you know, that true crime group that she was in, you know, you know, they referred to her as a super sleuth, didn't they? And yeah, we found out now she's not as clever as she thought she was. But, and she was telling them that she was putting powdered mushrooms in everything, even the chocolate brownies. So at some point, as this trial winds up, I'm going to write a list of all the, I'm going to write a list of all the reasons why Erin is guilty, just bullet points, and all the, or that why I think Erin is guilty. Because don't forget, this is just my opinion. Everyone's got their opinion. You put your opinion in chat, as long as it's not attacking anybody, go ahead. But yeah, a list of the reasons why I think Erin is probably guilty, and a list of the reasons why maybe she's not. I think that list is going to be a lot shorter. Maybe that's the sort of thing the jury will do. I don't know.
Hasn't it? What have we heard?
Yeah, there's been a lot of scientific evidence, a lot of medical evidence. We've heard from 2 mycologists or mushroom experts. One of them gave evidence that deathcap mushrooms had been sighted in 2 towns close to Erin Patterson's home in Leongatha, in Outram and Lock. And the prosecution's case is that her phone data shows that she visited those towns, or suggests that she visited those towns in the months before the lunch. We heard from another mycologist who looked.
So this is something that we heard in the beginning when the prosecution, the opening arguments or whatever, but this is something I'm waiting to hear. Her digital phone evidence showed she was in these areas where these deathcap mushrooms grow. Why was she there? You know, visiting an Asian supermarket in the forest. I mean, you know, that's going to take some explaining, isn't it?
At the leftovers of that beef Wellington lunch, she said that she didn't find any signs of deathcap mushrooms in those leftovers. And we also heard from Dr. Andrew Burston.
Yeah, but that expert that said she didn't see any signs of mushrooms, deathcap mushrooms, that was just a visual test. She put them under the microscope and they were chopped up anyway in a paste. How would she tell if they were deathcap mushrooms or not? So I don't think you can really even consider that. You know, if you chop up a deathcap mushroom into small pieces, put it in a paste, and then you put it under a microscope, all you'd see is it was a mushroom. She couldn't, it was only when the toxicology guy actually tested them scientifically and saw that it was deathcap mushrooms. So I don't think we should really take any notice of the fact that the woman said she visually didn't see any signs. You know, they wouldn't have a label on saying, no, by the way, these are deathcap mushrooms.
He gave evidence that, you know, he analysed health records from Ms. Patterson in the days after the lunch, and he said that she was suffering from a diarrheal illness, but there were no signs of liver damage. But more dramatically, yesterday, a juror was discharged after reports emerged that he had been speaking with family and friends about this case. No findings have been made against him, but it was decided that he would be discharged. So now we're down to 14 jurors, and in the end, 12 will decide whether Erin Patterson is guilty or not guilty. Today is a slightly shorter sitting, being a Friday, and then we'll be back on Monday.
Okay. Alex, thank you.
Yeah. So I thought I want to have a little look about mushrooms in Spain. If I was to, I mean, you know, joking aside, I was going to go and have a look for mushrooms. If I could have, you know, if I would have Googled it and it would have said there would be mushrooms growing somewhere near where I live, I would have gone just to see if I could see any, though they're probably, I think they're normally autumn they come out, so they probably wouldn't be out at this time. But anyway, I had a little Google like you do, and look what, okay, now there's not many toxic mushrooms in Spain, but I came across this very interesting, well, again, it's interesting if you're interested in mushrooms, not necessarily interesting to most people. But discovering the 5 most toxic mushrooms in Spain. So, you know, if I was an idiot who went out foraging for mushrooms, which I'm not, now at least I know which ones to avoid. But look at this one. Oh my God, what a weird mushroom. So, of course, there's not many mushrooms grow in the part of Spain where I live, because I live in the south. South is very arid. You know, there are not any forests, you know, very few forests, woods, etc. And of course, mushrooms like dark, damp conditions that tend to grow at the foot of trees. You know, we saw that those deathcap mushrooms tend to be associated with oak trees. Now, as far as I know, there aren't any oak trees in Spain, but you know what? What do I know? I literally do not know, because I know a lot about mushrooms now, or a lot more than I knew before. But oh God, what a weird mushroom. Well, you wouldn't eat that, would you, for a start? If I saw that growing, I definitely wouldn't be trying to eat that. It does say below which one it is. So at Cuenquiando, we are truly crazy about mycology. So there's lots of people out there who love mushrooms and foraging for mushrooms. And today we wanted to share our passion for this fascinating world of mushrooms. If you are one who loves nature, who with the first rains of autumn prepare the basket and the knife at the door of the house, you are one of us. Outings in nature are to be enjoyed, so it's essential to be knowledgeable about the environment, and in the case of mushroom collecting, be very clear which mushrooms are edible and which are not. If you want to delve into the world of mycology, we recommend the Cuenquiando mycological routes. So you can go on these routes looking for mushrooms, but they tend to be in the north of Spain, because the north of Spain, the climate actually is much more like Britain, really. It rains a lot, it's much greener. So entering the magical world of mushrooms is a fascinating experience for lovers of nature and mycology. In Spain, the diversity of species is impressive, and many of them are edible and delicious. However, well, I won't be eating any that I find in the woods, that's for sure. However, we must be aware that there are also poisonous mushrooms that can cause serious damage to our health and even be fatal if consumed. In this article, we will explore the 5 most toxic mushrooms that can be found in Spanish forests. Knowing them is essential to guarantee a safe search for mushrooms and enjoy the beauty of nature without risk. Read on and find out which mushrooms you should. Oh, look at this. Oh, no, they have got it in Spain. Look, what's number 1? The Amanita phalloides. That's the deathcap mushroom. Says here, also known as the mushroom of death, tops our list of the most toxic mushrooms in Spain. This species is responsible for 90% of fatal poisonings worldwide, and it is the deadliest mushroom for humans. Oh my God. But where's the photo of it? Because it can't be that. I mean, that they don't look anything like. They don't look anything like the Australian. Look, this is the deathcap mushroom. That's what it's supposed to look like. So I don't know what it looks like. Of course, the Spanish one, it's probably got a little cape for fighting bulls up. You know, what does the Spanish one look like? Oh. So its specimens can be in pine forests or oak groves, deciduous forests. It's easy to confuse with other edible mushrooms. So sometimes overconfidence is on the other side of these poisonings. A simple piece of this mushroom, that's interesting because that's what we've been hearing, can end a person's life. Its ingestion causes severe liver failure, including cell necrosis in the liver. Ugh. Poisoning requires an urgent liver transplant. The death mushroom is difficult to distinguish from edible mushrooms. It has a cap that can range from white to greenish yellow, a stem with a white ring and gills. Oh, well, this is like repeating what Funky Tom said, isn't it? Its garlic smell or bulbous base can help you identify it, but you know, the further away the better. Now, thing is this, I don't know if that's supposed to be a deathcap mushroom or this Cortinarius oralinus. Gosh. So this grows in coniferous forests. But, oh, it's that one. I mean, it's very attractive looking, isn't it? Attractive looking mushroom. It grows in coniferous forests. Oh, so this must be the deathcap one. But it doesn't look like those other deathcap ones. This looks more like a straw mushroom or a button mushroom, doesn't it? Look, they're covered in insects. Why would anyone want to eat them? Anyway, so depending on the climate, oh, it's known for its bright red colour, and depending on the climate, it ranges from red-brown to brick red. Contains a toxin called orelanin that can cause kidney failure if consumed. And it's often confused with edible mushrooms, making it a death trap for inexperienced mushroom pickers. I mean, it's like something out of a fairy grove. You might know that the mushrooms in Spain would be much more attractive than your average mushroom. Wait till you see one in a minute. So pretty, they're mushrooms. Everything's pretty in Spain. Look at this. Oh my God, this mushroom. I love it. It's like, you know, that's just like the emoji, the members emoji mushroom. It's so pretty. Having said that, I do think you would look at that and think the fact that it's bright red means it's probably poisonous. Because in nature, things that have vibrant colours normally you should stay away from, shouldn't it? Like bees and things like that, and wasps. You know, pretty mushrooms. Very pretty. I really like that mushroom. I mean, you know, I wouldn't go anywhere near it, obviously. But it's like something off a cartoon, isn't it? These look like little nuts. But I tell you what, you can see how a child would find that attractive, wouldn't they? They'd think, oh, that looks like a sweetie. So if we think of a mushroom, so this is the Amanita muscaria. If we think of a mushroom, this is the mushroom par excellence. Perhaps because since we were children, we've associated it with drawings. We know it as the Smurfs mushroom. Although Amanita muscaria is known for its attractive colours, its toxicity is no less lethal. It's famous for its distinctive red cap and white specks. And despite its attractive appearance, it's highly toxic and psychoactive. It can cause hallucinations, seizures, and even death. And some cultures have used this mushroom ritually for its hallucinogenic and invigorating events. Oh my God, no thank you. But its consumption is extremely dangerous and should be avoided at all costs. And then this is this Gyromitra esculenta. Oh my God, that looks like a brain, doesn't it? Or a walnut. And this is a perfect example of how toxicity can be confused with edibility. It's reminiscent of a brain. Yeah, it is reminiscent of a brain. Its hat is made up of numerous brown folds, though the colour changes from light brown to reddish depending on the humidity. So it can easily be confused with the edible Morchella mushroom, but it contains a substance called hydrazine, which can cause serious health problems, including vomiting, diarrhea, and liver damage. Never pick mushrooms that resemble Morchellas without being completely sure of their identity. Don't worry, I won't be. And to close our list of the most toxic mushrooms in Spain, we cannot forget the Entoloma cinnatum. Its toxicity may go unnoticed at first, but knowing its characteristics is essential to avoid risks. And this is easily confused because that just looks not like a normal mushroom. You know, if I was foraging for mushrooms, which I wouldn't be, only in Tesco, you'd look at that and you would think that looks like a mushroom you could eat, doesn't it? I mean, I think at the end of the day, if you looked at that mushroom, you wouldn't even think about eating it. You wouldn't want to do a stir fry with that, would you? This mushroom just looks beautiful, but again, I don't think you'd really want to eat it because of the fact it's red. It looks like it's poisonous. This one looks like you could eat it, doesn't it? But it reminds me a bit of a jellyfish. I don't know why. And this is the deathcap mushroom. That again, it reminds me of straw mushrooms that you get in Chinese restaurants. So, I think the easy answer is just don't eat wild mushrooms. Sorry. I know it's spoiled. A lot of people enjoy foraging for mushrooms. Well, forage for them, but you don't have to eat them, of course. So anyway, I just thought I'd show you that. It's interesting about poisonous mushrooms in Spain, but very few mushrooms grow in Spain wild, so I don't think I will be even foraging for them just for a video, you know. I don't think I'll find any in my area. So, okay, that's it for today for the mushroom murder trial. It's all going to start again on Monday. I think there might only be another week, possibly one more week. I don't think it's going to go 6 weeks. So it's amazing to think we're already 3 weeks in. Where does the time go? So I think actually I'm going to put a little poll, if I can find my... Right. So I'm going to put, is Erin guilty? Let me know what you think. We'll have yes, no, not sure. Let me know what you think. David, don't forget to vote first. So I'll just leave it up for a couple of minutes. Also, I want to know, do you want me to, let's do another poll. Oh, it won't let me do another one. It won't let me do another one until I finish that one. But go to my community posts because I've asked on there, do you want me to cover the Diddy trial? Do you want me to cover the Idaho 4 trial? Or both of them, or none of them? Okay, so have a go on that as well. So far, I think we're on 70%. Did you do the poll? So far, the poll's saying 75%, I can see, but I can't actually tap into it, I don't think, until I finish it. Oh, yeah, we're on 75% guilty at the moment. And not sure, 25%, but there's only been 8 votes. Any more want to vote before I finish the poll? Is she guilty? Yes, no, or not sure? Nobody's saying no so far. But anyway. I think it's got to be... It looks like... David's saying no for that. It looks like Alana, Jack and Lily. Now, Jack and Lily, they're the children that have gone missing in Nova Scotia. No one's been charged yet, so I don't think that's a trial, is it? No, I don't think anyone's been charged yet. I just don't like covering these children's cases. You know, I just don't like it. And, you know, it's likely... People seem to think it's likely something to do with the stepfather, but people always think that, don't they? You know, so I still want to, I've got a few things to say later about Sebastian Rogers. The problem is you end up with all this Just gets nasty, these kind of things, don't they? So, yeah. Oh, Diddy is a horrible person, isn't he? I think that's the only reason why I'm sort of thinking I want to talk about it a bit now, because I just want to say what a lowlife he is. I want some shared outrage. Do you know what I mean? Because I can't talk to number one son about it. He's not interested in those things. I just want to have a real good rant about it. Maybe I'll just do a ranty video. What a piece of shit he is. You know, absolute horrible person. Do you know, I'd never even heard of him before. You know, I don't, these rappers and that, they leave me cold. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I'm just not interested. So, you know, I didn't know anything about him at all. Nothing, nada. And just what I think about Diddy is, he's just horrible, isn't he? And using Cassie, you know, she sort of went along with it for a while, but of course she's a lot younger than him. And she'd have her head turned by his money. That I'm not exonerating her. There probably was a time when she did want to do it. But the problem is when it came to a point where she had enough. Do you know what I mean? Men like Diddy, they never have enough. It'd just go on and on and on and never change. And he sat there in that courtroom. All this evidence is coming out. His family are in there. His children, his mom is in there. You know, I just imagine sitting there and hearing about all these things that my son had been doing. I'd be going mental. You know, he's got no shame. He thinks his money is just everything. Horrible, horrible person. So the only reason where I was sort of half interested in talking about it is just to say what piece of shit he is. But I did watch a very interesting interview. Piers Morgan, of all people, interviewing another sort of rapper who knows about that. That's a very interesting interview. I might try and do a react on that because he gave some very good insights into P. Diddy and how people disappear. You know, he's in hiding. He has to have 24-hour bodyguard because people disappear. You know, witnesses disappear, especially these escorts and that who are not, you know, not famous people, not rich, famous people. These witnesses, they disappear. So just awful. He's grotesque. He's grotesque. Yeah, Virginia Giuffre. Very sad, that case. Very sad. Yeah. Just, you know what, there's a lot. I was thinking today when I was going to the supermarket, there's a lot of badness in the world. There is a lot of badness in the world, isn't there? There's a lot of goodness as well. But, you know, money, when money comes into it, just, you know, money is the root of all evil, like they say. And there's Diddy. Like, do you think any woman would be interested in him if he wasn't a millionaire? Or man, for that. Diddy is one of these men. He is bisexual. He's probably gay, not even bisexual. But some bisexual men, because they just can't bring themselves to come out and admit they're gay. So what they do is they enter into these three-way relationships, like sexual relationships, with a woman in the middle, because that gives them, like, they're sharing a woman. It makes them feel like they're not really being gay. You know, because even though they're watching another man have relations with their woman or even participating, but it's like almost, it's more cool than, you know, just being gay. You know what I mean? They're sort of men who can't admit they're gay. So instead they sort of live their gayness through the conduit of a woman, if you like. I've seen it happen many, many times. And that to me is Diddy. And what was interesting was the guy that was being interviewed by Piers Morgan. And Piers Morgan said to him, well, is Diddy bisexual? And he said, everyone in that business is bisexual. He said, I've never met a straight person in that business. He said, they're all bisexual. So that was interesting. You know, the thing is, it's power, isn't it, as well? It's like power. They get money, they get power, and that's how they exert power over people, through sex. And interestingly enough, this guy said he thought Diddy might even get off. But even if he gets off, his reputation's in tatters, so it doesn't matter. But anyway. Okay, and what was the other one? Oh, and the Idaho 4. I think I will definitely cover the Brian Kohlberg case. I know a lot about it. I've been keeping up with it, but I just haven't really presented it because the trial hasn't really got going yet. He's another one. I just think his trouble is, I already think he's guilty, but you've got all those bloody, fanboys and girls out there that think he's not guilty, just like with Richard Allen. It's just like they'll, sometimes I don't understand why people always, or a lot of people, women and men, sort of idolize these hateful people, don't they? Think they're fantastic, want to be them, don't they? And, that's interesting about Brian Kohlberger. He's got this fan base, which is a bit scary, but anyway. Hi, Moonbeam. The music industry is rife with weirdos. It certainly is. And the TV, all that entertainment business, isn't it? We find out new things all the time. And of course, the thing now, and the royal family, and all these things that we find out, Diddy is just Epstein, isn't he, really? He's just like a more modern day Epstein. This guy was saying about how he had a lot of parties that were just normal parties that famous people would go to and launch their new records there, or this, that, and the other. And that was all legitimate. And then it'd get to a point in the evening where Diddy would suddenly start going around taking everyone's mobile phones off them. And he said that's when you knew that it was going to start going on a different tangent. And then he would video them and blackmail them. And no doubt that's what Epstein did. And I think he's got videos of Andrew, or had them. Where they are now, I don't know. There'll be videos out there of all sorts of people. Okay, bye, Angel. Have a nice day. Okay, I'm going now. I'm going to finish off with the little video of me foraging for mushrooms, just to make us smile at the end. But of course, we mustn't forget these three people, the three people who died, Don, Gail, Heather, and of course, Ian, who not only, apart from being terribly ill, lost his wife, and Simon, who lost his parents and his aunt. There's so many victims in this case. And the children who had to testify in a murder trial, for God's sake. How many 9-year-olds, how many children have to do that? And they shouldn't have to do that. And I was going to light a candle, and of course I can't find my lighter, here it is. So I'm going to light a candle for them. I'm going to put on this little video about the Vicky Marie Chat stall in the garden on the roof terrace. Ow, burnt my finger. And I'll see you really soon in the next video. No more from the mushroom trial now until Monday. We'll see what happens next week. And until I see you again, may your God go with you, and don't go to any, what they call freakouts or whatever. Don't go to, stay away from the what they call freak-offs. Yeah, stay away from the freak-offs. I'll see you later. Bye. Oh, I've got to put on this, hang on. Set my outro video. So I think you'll enjoy this video. A lot of you will have seen it already, but it's a nice little video to cheer us up.
you.